Please read and pay attention to the disclaimer on this slide. People often ask why they need to learn about the cost of capital, a very finance-oriented concept, in a program on investing. As it turns out, the cost of capital is one side of a very important coin in the investing world. The other side of the coin is the return on capital. We focus on the cost of capital in this lesson and the return on capital in the next. The importance of the cost of capital can best be summed up with this wise old saying, just because an investment is profitable doesn't mean it's worthwhile. Capital, whether obtained through borrowing from a bank or issuing stock in the market, carries an inherent cost. This cost represents the minimum rate of return a company must generate on its capital to meet the expectations of creditors or investors. If a company's returns fall below these capital costs, it may still be profitable but is effectively eroding shareholder value, which negatively impacts the stock price. The metaphor of raining money, turning to dust before it can be collected, vividly illustrates this concept. It symbolizes how the cost of capital can swiftly consume a company's profits, leaving little to no actual gain. A company should invest only in projects where the returns exceed the cost of capital to enhance shareholder value. Imagine a company as a money tree. Wise investments will allow this tree to grow into a thriving forest of money trees. However, poor investments can lead to the tree's demise. High returns on capital are a key indicator of potential profit growth, and the stock market rewards companies that consistently achieve these returns. Having a lower cost of capital can significantly boost a company's competitive edge against competitors burdened with higher capital costs. It's crucial, especially when you're investing in stocks, to assess how the cost of capital for the companies you invest in stacks up against their competition, as it can profoundly influence their growth and market positioning. That's why we're going to focus on it this lesson. Pay attention to the story of Amazon because it serves as a prime example of leveraging a low cost of capital to climb to the top of the online retail sector. In his first shareholder letter in 1997, Jeff Bezos unveiled his bold strategy to invest billions in creating an expansive distribution network aimed at dominating the online retail market. Furthermore, Bezos told his shareholders he planned to sacrifice short-term profits in pursuit of sustained long-term growth, a move that typically raises concerns among investors due to its immediate negative impact on stock prices. Yet, Amazon's investors were convinced by Bezos' long-term vision and continued to support the company, awarding the company a very high valuation. As a result, Amazon enjoyed a significant cost of capital advantage over its competitors, allowing it to raise substantial funds without diluting the ownership stakes of existing shareholders by very much. We're going to focus on the risks of ownership dilution in this lesson. Amazon's strategic advantage in its cost of capital became a significant factor in its success. Competing retailers, constrained by the need to maintain profitability, found themselves at a disadvantage against Amazon, which prioritized growth over immediate profits. This approach allowed Amazon to emerge as the apex predator in the retail sector. Today, Amazon has a commanding 38% market share of the US e-commerce market. Next, we'll delve into what the cost of capital is, what it's used for, and why it's so important to companies. It's essential to know the answers to these questions whether you're an investor or starting your own company, as we'll see in the next lesson. We will also explore two important case studies to illustrate these points. In the stock market, it's common for companies to utilize both debt and equity on their balance sheets. The cost of capital for a company is influenced by how it balances these two forms of financing. Think of it like brewing a cup of coffee. Debt financing is like the milk, and equity financing is like the coffee itself. More milk results in a lighter blend, symbolizing a greater reliance on debt. More coffee represents a heavier use of equity. The average cost of capital for a company depends on this mix between debt and equity. The weighted average formula is a mathematical expression of that blend of financing. The slide displays the formula for calculating the weighted average cost of capital. This formula determines weighted average cost of capital by adding the after-tax cost of debt financing, adjusted for its proportion in the overall financing mix, to the cost of equity financing, also adjusted for its proportion in the financing mix. This gives us the blended cost of capital, which represents the average rate a company must pay on its financed capital. Don't worry if this sounds complex. I'll break it down and explain it in a way that will make it perfectly clear. Before we delve into the specifics of where the numbers for debt and equity costs come from, it's important to understand why managing these costs is crucial for companies. Reducing the cost of capital is a strategic priority because it allows companies to invest in more projects while enhancing shareholder value, which often leads to higher stock prices. On the slide, you'll see 3 hypothetical balance sheets illustrating different financing structures. The first balance sheet is predominantly equity financed, with equity making up 75% of the capital. The second balance sheet shows a balanced approach, with an equal split of 50% debt and 50% equity. The third balance sheet is primarily debt financed, where debt accounts for 75% of the total capital. Each configuration has implications for the company's cost of capital and its strategic flexibility. For all 3 scenarios, let's assume the after-tax cost of debt is 5.6% and the cost of equity is 15%. The calculations for the 3 different weighted average costs of capital are detailed on the slide. You'll notice that the cost of capital decreases from 12.7% for the primarily equity-financed balance sheet on the left to 8% for the mostly debt-financed balance sheet on the right. This reduction is because debt financing is generally cheaper than equity financing, thus using more debt lowers the average cost of capital. However, it's important to be cautious with high levels of debt. Excessive borrowing increases the risk of bankruptcy, which can cause both the costs of debt and equity to spike, jeopardizing the company's financial stability. Suppose Tesla plans to build a new factory anticipated to yield a 10% return on investment. From the 3 balance sheets discussed earlier, only the one with 75% debt financing would enable the factory's return to exceed its 8% cost of capital. This financial structure is the only one under which the new factory would enhance shareholder value. Conversely, the other 2 balance sheets, characterized by lower levels of debt, would have costs of capital higher than the factory's expected return. Although the factory would still be profitable, these financing structures would erode shareholder value, adversely affecting the company's stock price. The cost of debt financing is easy to calculate. It's the interest rate that lenders charge a company for borrowing money. Debt must be paid first before shareholders get anything. As a result, debt financing is less risky and accordingly less costly than equity financing. Debt has an additional advantage because interest expense is tax deductible, so the real cost of borrowing money is based on the after-tax interest rate charged on it. Let's assume the borrowing cost of debt for a company is 8%. In this case, the after-tax cost of that debt is 5.6%, assuming a 30% tax rate. That's calculated by multiplying the borrowing cost of 8% by 1 minus 30%, the tax rate. Calculating the cost of equity is more complex than calculating the cost of debt because equity returns vary with the company's profitability and are not fixed. Unlike debt, which has mandatory interest payments, equity does not require regular payouts. Additionally, because debt obligations are paid off first before the shareholders, equity investments carry higher risks. As a result, the cost of equity financing typically exceeds the cost of debt for any given company. The capital asset pricing model is considered the most effective theoretical method for estimating the cost of equity. This model involves advanced financial theories and is discussed in detail in the appendix of this lesson for those interested in deepening their understanding.